But you know, like speaking of these podcasts, like I've done episodes where I forgot to press record.
Holy crap!
Then you lose the whole thing, and it's like, oh my god! And I was like, we can't do it again
Yeah.
because it's not going to be the same.
Exactly.
Sorry, guys, just technical situations, making sure it's perfect before we break the internet.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Master Mo Podcast.
Boom! Master Mo! Top G!
Today, I had a special guest, the Lord Hussain Husaini, the most controversial podcaster in the island, is here in the studio. Thank you for making time, Hussain Husaini, and come to the podcast.
Mo, it's an absolute pleasure. I've been looking forward to this. You know, when you first started your podcast, actually before you started your podcast, we had a chat and you're like, can we do this? And I said, 100% we can do this, right? But I was waiting for you to go in your flow, do a few episodes before I come on your podcast, right? Because before you get cancelled, because I am the most controversial, I get you cancelled in 2 minutes. So I thought I'd let you have like some life before I cancel you.
Interesting. I do still remember that conversation because, to be frank, honest, I saw your... I've been introduced to you the first time when you were with Kells, Ali.
Yeah. Ali Kells. Shout out Ali Kells underground podcast. Shout out to them.
Yeah. So this was the first time I have seen one of your work. I have no Scooby-Doo, who is Hussain Husaini.
Yeah.
And after some time, I remember there was the sponsor ad. And it's like, yo guys, this is me, Hussain Husaini. Yo, I'm here for consultation, business and marketing. Yo, you don't get this in this university. And I will give you you were basically giving a free 30-minute consultation. And I'm like,
absolutely.
Wow. Like, you know, at this stage, at that time, there was not a lot of people who will do such a thing. There was just like a brag. And you know, you didn't find someone with abundance mindset, like, hey, I want to give some help. And for me, the most interesting thing is that for every person is the time. And when I say like, look, this gentleman giving from his precious time to people who does not know, just to give them free consultation. And I was amazed. And I'm like, oh, let me call this guy. I still remember that when I told you I was about to run a podcast. Would you be interested to be in my show? Though that no one had, and you were like,
sure, why not? Like, you know what I mean? By the way, that's the thing. Okay, that's an interesting point you bring up, because a lot of times people give free consultations just to try to sell you something, right?
Yeah.
And it's very hard to distinguish between who's actually giving you a free consultation versus who's actually just trying to sell you and not give you value, right? So I genuinely, you should see my consultations, okay? I give them, that 30 minutes goes to like an hour, and I solve all their problems in that 1 hour. And I'm like, by the way, here's A, B, C, D, E. You can go do that.
Yeah.
If you need, by the way, like obviously I'm still a business, so it's like, if you want my help to do it, then this is what it is, but you don't need my help. You can go do it yourself. You can go hire someone else to do it, whatever it is, right? I generally come from a place of wanting to help. So when you ask me about you haven't even made one podcast yet, and you're like, would you come as a guest? I was like, yeah, of course I will.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to help.
Though you have no idea about me, perhaps you don't know what's my values, what is the message, or the real values out of podcast. That has to be something. Do you agree with me?
Well, okay, so now I do. Okay, so at that time it was like, and even like when anyone calls me for help, I don't ask why.
Nice.
You want help? Cool. Let's do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to help you in terms of like, here's $1 million, but I will give you all the tools you need from my time, from my experience, whatever, for free. Take it, bro. And I hope you have a great life from it. And with the podcast, it's like, yes, I learned a few things about podcasts.
Yeah.
So you have a podcast, I have a podcast, Unsolved Truth, Ali Kells, Underground, whatever. We all have podcasts, right? But I did learn something. No one wants to watch boring content.
100%.
Right? Otherwise, you might as well watch Joe Rogan or any other American podcast, right?
Yeah.
But so I try to now I learned a skill.
Okay.
Yes, you might call me controversial, but I'm trying to entertain you while still giving a positive or teaching a message out there.
Exactly. Nice.
So I'm super happy to be on this podcast, Mo. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Sure.
And thank you for coming on my podcast the other day.
Yeah, it's actually exclusive news. Maybe Hussain Husaini would like to shout out, but I think by the time this podcast...
Yeah, by the time yours released, mine's already out there. Yeah. And it's very controversial, the Macho Libre podcast. Check it out, guys.
Sure, you should not miss it. It's going to be lit.
Listen, that podcast, I have to say something about that podcast.
Yeah.
So the reason we came up with the Macho Libre podcast.
Yes.
So, I have the Hustle Kitchen podcast.
Exactly.
Now, on the Hustle Kitchen podcast, I have an amazing co-host. Yeah. Shout out to him. Love him. Omar, love you. Right? But Omar is also a businessman, right?
Yeah.
And so there's certain things he wants to talk about, certain things he doesn't want to talk about.
Exactly.
So the Hustle Kitchen podcast is focused around interviewing people.
Right.
So if you ever want to come on my podcast and you want to just talk about yourself and we can find out more about you, that's the Hustle Kitchen podcast.
Okay.
The Macho Libre podcast has nothing to do with who's there.
Okay.
We talk about topics because I don't think there's enough podcasts in Bahrain that genuinely talk about real issues that we think about. So the Macho Libre has got nothing to do with interviewing people. I'll never bring a guest and be like, what's your name? Who are you? Blah, 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 blah,
like
blah,
your
right?
background and what's your achievement?
It's not going to happen on Macho Libre.
Nice.
Macho Libre is about, people might say it's controversial. I don't think it's controversial. I think it's topics that we all think about, but we don't want to talk about.
Wow.
And that's what the podcast is about. Yeah. So check it out. You know what I mean? If you want to understand more, check it out.
No, there is a question pops up to my mind.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of the podcast? What you have said?
Macho Libre?
Yeah. So where the name came from?
So macho is obviously masculinity. And Libre is obviously freedom, right? So like I said, I think we live in a time where we don't have freedom of speech.
Yeah.
It's like you can get cancelled for saying the wrong thing.
Exactly.
Or you live in the wrong part of the world and you can't talk about certain things.
Yeah.
Right? Or you're just a man who has a thought, but you can't talk about it because then the woman, the feminist might be like, no, you're wrong, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So I thought, me and Mo, Mohammed Fahad, shout out Mo, we thought people need a space to talk truths. At least, even if you don't think it's a truth, let us at least debate you on the other side.
Nice.
So it is a man's podcast, I'll be honest, okay? So this is a man's podcast for men. Women can listen to it, of course, and women can even join to debate it. But it's a man's podcast. So it's like, okay, so you're a woman who doesn't agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Come on the podcast. Debate us.
Oh, so you said it's when you say the term man.
It's a man's perspective.
Man perspective. Okay.
That's it, right? I mean, you were on the podcast. You know what we're talking about. It's a man's perspective.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm doing this, okay, yes, we're going to be controversial. Yes, we go a little bit extreme.
Yeah.
But I'm more than happy, and all of us were more than happy to bring women on the podcast to bring their perspective as well, to debate the opinion.
Exactly.
But if you can't talk about things, then how will you ever understand the dialogue and what's going on?
Exactly.
Because today, let's admit it, today, we don't talk about anything. We talk about a nice burger. Oh, I love this burger. Love this. We're not talking anything meaningful. We're bringing meaningful subjects that people don't want to talk about and bringing it to the mainstream and to the public.
Nice. Now, having said that, do you think that the reason for that is like there was a lack of awareness in the culture? And what about media channels and other stuff? Why do you think those kind of topic that you will bring on the table, it won't be discussed, or it wouldn't have media coverage on such a thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's a very good question. I will answer this two ways.
Okay.
Right? First of all, there is media coverage on what I'm talking about, but you have to search for it.
Nice.
It's just not mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Second of all, okay, Mo, you're married?
Yeah.
You know that as a married man, there's certain topics you can't talk to your wife about. Because she's going to be like, oh, you're misogynistic. No, women rights. No, this, no, that, right? There's certain things that maybe with you, but with other people, you know, like you have to filter yourself.
Of course, yeah.
And I think online, everyone filters themselves today. Because maybe I'll say something and 30% of people will hate it.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I have to be careful, right? So like, then they'll be like, oh, forget Hussain, you know, we don't want to talk to Hussain, right?
Yeah.
So what we try to do is make a podcast. We don't care what you think, but we're going to talk about it anyway. But what we're talking about is a thing in your mind that you don't want to argue with someone else about. But we will be your voice.
Interesting.
That is the Macho Libre podcast. So it's like, it's things you talk about with your friends. Let's be honest.
Okay.
The topics we talk about with your friends in the cafe, you know, like in a restaurant, with your buddies, you know, you talk about these things, but you just wouldn't talk about it online.
Exactly. Yeah.
We are bringing it online.
Wow. That's gonna be lit. So what kind of guest in this case will be fit for this? Because if I would imagine that you chose a topic that we not talk about, how would you distinguish the right guest that will fulfill the meaningful will give a meaningful of that specific podcast?
That's the beauty about this. Okay. So you came on for the test podcast, right? The first episode. You didn't even know what you were coming into.
Exactly.
You just turned up. You're like, oh, what the hell are these guys talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean to say, it was weird.
Did you enjoy it?
Of course, man. I did. 100% I enjoyed it because, first of all, I would say that I like, just before we start this podcast, we were just speaking of when you've been invited to our podcast, have you noticed that you feel like
you're a guest, you're royalty.
Yes, you know, you don't have to think about
all the stress is on my side. Yeah.
Exactly. So this opportunity for me, I really love because again, I have stress-free content.
But I noticed you strategically stayed quiet on a lot of topics. but that was my point. But that's my point. You don't want to give your opinion on these topics because you don't want anyone to clip you on a TikTok or whatever talking about things that you shouldn't be talking about, right?
Exactly, 100%.
But if I have the guts to do it, right? Sure. I would say, if you don't like what I'm saying, come on the podcast.
Wow.
Debate it.
Nice.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you don't like it, don't be a keyboard warrior with no profile picture and just saying, or fake account, or even like a real account, but just hiding behind the internet.
Yeah.
Come on the podcast. We invite you. Please come, sit down, talk to us, and we will have a real conversation. Because if the conversation cannot have two sides of a story, then you only have a biased story, biased opinion.
Yeah.
Whether it's CNN or it's Fox, depending if you're right or left, both are biased, right?
Yeah.
But that's what happens if you don't have a conversation.
Exactly. That's really, really interesting. Now, speaking about this, and what is Hussain Husaini aims for the podcast? So where we will see Hussain Husaini in the future, will he be how would you manage the two platforms at the same time?
Okay, that's a very good question. 1 second.
Take your time.
I'll tell you why. Because me and Mo, Mohammed Fahad, my co-host, the aim behind this podcast is not to just talk shit and make you guys go crazy.
Okay.
The aim behind the podcast is to actually be the voice of reason in the woke culture that we live in today, where everything you see online is actually making your son weaker and it's making your daughter weirder. That is today's media. The podcast, while we say it's controversial, it's actually not controversial because we're talking logic. And we want to bring back traditions, values, and teach people what is going on today. And we have a bigger vision in our head. It's not just to entertain you. It's to bring back values that we've lost.
Oh. So you believe that we as the Arabic culture or the generation has, or the new generation has lost the authentic...
Don't you think so? Sure, compare Bahrain today to 10 years ago. Have we not lost it? Let me give you an example. Okay, let's talk about this. This is a very good topic, all right? Just checking. Right.
Nice.
I'm a professional. Let's talk about this. Cool. 10 years ago, and by the way, this is not to be a sexist thing, right? And I'm going to talk about males and females. So women, relax, okay? But I'm coming up in a sequence, okay?
Just wait for me.
Just wait for me. I will talk about the men as well, all right? Let's talk about. I'm just starting with my experience. So I came to Bahrain 12 years ago.
Okay.
Now it's probably more, maybe 13, 14 years ago. I don't know. I've lost track of time. But 10 years ago, if you asked a female to post a video online, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Haram. Everything's haram. You know what I mean? Today, it's very normal, right?
Yeah.
Everyone posts videos online, right? Pictures, videos, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But 10 years ago, that wasn't the culture. Did you see how culture changed in 10 years that fast?
But don't you think that the reason why there was a huge change, it's because also we have a huge development when it's come to technology, internet, social media?
Yes, no, absolutely. But I was talking about social media then versus social media now. What you're talking about is, which I was trying to come to, is globally, the cultures change. Globalization, right? So everywhere in the world, it's the same. It's normal now. I'm not saying this about women only, okay? Look at men. 10 years ago, you had to be a man. You had to be strong, right? Today, they're like, no. It's okay to be weak. It's okay to cry. It's okay to do all of these things, right?
Yeah, this bullshit nonsense.
But this is what's happening, right? So I'm not talking only from a female point of view.
Right.
I'm saying men have become weaker. Women almost become stronger in the sense of more empowered, let's call it, right? They call it empowerment. So do you think this is like a good thing in our culture? And let's not forget, divorce rates, highest it's ever been.
Yeah.
I actually had an interesting conversation about this the other day. I'd say a man today, because of social media, so I'm talking both sides now, okay? So from a man's point of view, because of social media, he sees Ferraris, he sees Lamborghinis, he sees successful people, he sees private jets, he sees all of this stuff. So a man is really trying to be richer. And a woman is always trying to upgrade her husband.
Okay.
Meaning she sees, look at those couples. Look at how happy they are. Look at how whatever they are. So everyone is judging everyone based on what you see. And everyone's trying to be, thinking they're being happier.
Okay.
And ended up being miserable, or everyone's being miserable in the end.
So you're just trying to say that they're just trying to judge people.
Men upgrade jobs, women upgrade husbands. That's what I'm saying. Because that's the fastest way. You know? And even if it's rich, he's like, but he's not treating me good. You know what I mean? I got to upgrade.
Go back to
look at those guys look at that couple who are like hugging and stuff. Why are we not like that? You know what I mean? Like,
so
everyone's judging everyone.
It will not finish. Like if
it will never finish. It will never finish.
He wouldn't have the romance or being a good husband. Maybe perhaps
because they say if he has the wealth, he should have multiple women. Right? That's what rich people think, right? If I'm rich, I should have multiple women. Why should I settle for her? No, but my point is, jokes aside. The wedding really, a marriage is really for the woman. It's not for the man. A man doesn't need your love. He can have love, but he doesn't need to be married for that. Right? He can go and get love from this one, from that one, from that one, but he doesn't need to be married for that. The woman is always the one like, when are you going to put a ring on my finger? When is you going to take this seriously? Think about it. Even as a teenager, when you were dating, and I don't know about your personal life, so I'm not going to talk about your personal life, but I'm saying with most men, when you're dating, what does a man say to get a woman to sleep with her? Oh, I love you. I will marry you. Right? But he doesn't mean it. But she's the one who wants it. But she wants the marriage. So he's using that. The man doesn't need the marriage. Why would he want responsibility, bills, no sex for like whatever, and all of that, all of these issues that come with the man? Deal with your parents, deal with your in-laws, deal with all of that stuff. Why would a man want that when he could just be chilling?
But
he does it for her because he loves her. Does that make sense? When he's in love with her, he's marrying her for her, not because he wants it. If she could live with him without marriage, and you can still have kids, he would choose that. And he could have other girlfriends too. He would choose that. I'm just saying, Mo, don't bullshit me here, okay?
I'm not.
I feel like you're bullshitting me here, so don't bullshit me, all right? I'm just talking facts now, okay? And I'm not talking about every man. I'm talking about most men, okay? Maybe you're not one of those guys.
Maybe, Okay.
By the way, if Mo's wife's listening to this, he's not one of those guys. Anyway, we're on a tangent, but I mean, in honesty, the point isn't that. I'm not saying men should cheat. I'm not saying men should have multiple girlfriends. I'm not saying any of that stuff. What I'm saying is, men should come back to being men, and women should also. What does a man want from a woman? What do you want from your wife? Yeah, okay, you're married. What do you want from your wife?
From my perspective, any man's, not only me, in my perspective, the man who he would need to have love, bond, relation. He has to have someone who's really look after him. He's really. You see, there is a saying in Arabic, I think, that behind every successful man there is a great.
I mean, that's a world saying. Everyone says that. Yeah,
exactly.
There's a successful woman behind every successful man.
And vice versa. And to be frank, honest, that's what I think. In my opinion, if someone who would have multiple girlfriends, and I think it's very hard for them to settle on being in a relation with one girl for the rest of their life, and that's why they are.
I mean, Islamically, you can marry 4. That's halal. That's legal. That's by God. God says it's okay.
It's true, but
the Prophet had like 9 or something, right?
To the extent you have to make sure that
they're treated equally.
Exactly. So, do you think? No, this is the question. Okay. Do you think a guy here is in Bahrain? Let's say he's earning on average a 1,000 BD salary, which is, I would say, this is
normal.
I wouldn't say normal, but let's say his average
decent
income. Do you think he'd have the ability
to treat them equally?
To treat them equally?
Can I blow your mind?
Yep.
I've thought about this. Okay. I've thought about this a lot, actually.
That's nice.
Are you ready to blow up the internet right now? I will tell you. I will tell you what I think about this.
Okay.
All right. First of all, when you go back to the Islamic days, they're farmers.
Yep.
It's not about 1,000 dinars or whatever. They're all farmers.
Yeah.
It's not like this guy's rich, that guy's poor. Like, they were all kind of normal, right? But they all had multiple wives. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but let's just say it. All right.
Okay.
Do you know what the advantage is of having multiple wives?
Even if I know, I would love to hear from your perspective.
I'm not talking sexually, by the way. So I want to make this clear. I'm not talking about sex. So if anyone's thinking sexually, I'm not talking sexually.
Okay.
What is the advantage of having multiple wives?
What?
They will all compete for your attention. So you're a married man, and I don't want you to talk about your personal life, but you know, how can I say this nicely? Women tend to use the box as leverage.
Okay.
Right? I'm not going to sleep with you because you're not being a good boy today. I'm upset with you, so I'm not going to sleep with you. And they use sex as leverage, as like blackmail almost, to control you, to change you. Okay. But if you're like, cool, don't want it, I got my second one, what happens? Then they both compete for your attention. And they will both treat you better at the end of the day.
So,
see, a monopoly never, in business, show me a monopoly that treats customers well. In a competitive market, they all try to give you the best price, best deal, best customer service.
Yeah.
It's the same with marriage.
But don't you think...
Think about it, you know, think about it, right? Oh, you're upset with me? All right, cool, I'm going to the next one. You know what I mean? Oh, no, Hussain, come back. You know what I mean?
But don't you...
Because women are emotional.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, okay, forgive me, everyone. I'm not saying like, okay, I'm not saying you as a man should be a bastard. I'm saying, imagine you're an amazing man.
Yeah.
You're good to all your wives.
Yeah.
Or to your wife. And then she's like, oh, you didn't take the garbage out. You didn't take the kids out today. No sex for you. They use this as leverage. But if you had multiple options, be like, cool. You have a problem? No problem. I'll go to the next one.
But if someone heard you at the moment, it was like, you know, you kind of influence them to get married more than one.
Well, it's halal.
But
it's halal. But by the way, I'm not talking about anything haram.
I know, but do you think that would be...
As a 40-year-old man, I would say yes, go marry more than one. As a life experience, yes.
Well,
I don't believe in this Romeo and Juliet stuff anymore, right? The amount of divorces I've seen that had nothing to do with, like, you know, I understand. The guy cheated on you. Something crazy happened. The amount of divorce, like, you get divorces by, oh, why did you like that girl's picture on Instagram? Divorce.
Whoa.
Things like this happen, all right? So, because like I said, we live in a world where everyone's comparing. You compare your life to other people's lives, right? So, is it so bad to have multiple options? No, I don't think so. Maybe you think so, but I'm saying if anyone on the internet wants to argue this point, I would say it's halal.
You kind of like when you got heat on you, especially when you bring a topic.
Oh, 100%. And if any woman has a problem with this, come join me on my podcast. But if the woman treats a man, because the reason I ask this question, what do men want from women in a marriage? Honestly, I'll tell you, there's one word. At the end of the story, you just want to feel respected as a man. That's it. If she's not giving you what you want, if she's not doing what you want, you don't feel respected. You just want to feel like you have respect. She respects you.
I mean, that's
no, because maybe you have a great relationship and maybe you feel respected. But I'm telling you about like 99% of these marriages out there, especially over time, you start feeling respected less. You just want to feel respected in your own house. That's it. It's simple. Like, no man would marry multiple women if their wife just looked after them and respected them and they felt respected.
Well, it's It's very controversial.
It's so controversial. It's so controversial. And I know you. And I'm sorry, Mo, to come on your podcast and bring controversial topics to you, especially being a nice guy that you are. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm destroying your podcast right now.
No, it's actually quite the opposite. If you want me to be very honest, because there isn't. You see, every podcaster has different. Perspective, different values, different things that he wanted, and for me it's always about understanding that person better and understand it's not necessarily he has to be a famous, it doesn't necessarily have to be a content creator. He can be a normal guy. That's what I do, you know. Even my guest, it's always like that. I always try to you had something to say about my guest.
No, not your guest. You remember in our podcast, the last episode, Ziad, he said something really interesting that I had to go Google it after the podcast.
Okay.
He said Islam did not make multiple marriages. He said Islam limited marriages to 4 because Christians and Jews could have married as many as they want with no limit before.
Okay.
That changed later. Islam came and said, no, you can only have 4.
Oh, that's something I didn't.
Bro, I had to Google this. I was like, oh my God, is this true? This can't be true. Right? Because in the marketing today, everyone says Islam has multiple wives, but Christianity, Judaism has only one, right? And what he said, and I went and Googled this. I was like, is this true? I researched this.
Nice.
Yes. Christians and Jews can marry as many women as they want before. And then Islam came and said, no, only 4.
Not anymore.
No, they went back. They went back because of marketing. But I'm saying at that time. So really, the truth was Islam limited it. It didn't increase it.
Okay.
And I was like, that blew my mind.
Wow. I can't tell. Yeah.
I didn't know that. So then I called people that like respectful people to ask them this question. Like, is this true? Like, or is this guy talking shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, it's true. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that.
So this is one of the benefits, I would say.
So you see how Islam just helps everyone?
Yeah.
Instead of marrying 1 million wives, you could only marry 4. That's a limit. That's a limit. You know what I mean? Nice. Anyway, I think all women will hate me after this podcast, so we can switch the topic here.
Exactly. No, Hussain, if I would ask you, you know, just to...
By the way, women, if you're listening, by the way, women, I'm not saying you should have multiple wives, but I make the arguments on both sides. So feel free to have an argument. It's a conversation at the end of the day.
Do you think if you got line up women that they want really to talk about these things and they want to go to debate and somehow they change your perspective, would you be okay to...
I have sisters, by the way. Just so you know, so just so people listening, I do have sisters, so I do understand a woman's perspective, and my sisters are quite feminist, by the way. So they're strong women. You know what I mean? Like they're smart, strong women.
Nice.
I have this. So tell me your question again. No, I'm just saying I understand. Like they would hate what I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like I understand that. So before anyone says, "Oh, don't you have sisters?" Yes, I do have sisters, and we can at least have a conversation.
I would love that. So now my question is, when you are just now, you believe in your values, you believe in your whatever your beliefs and value are. Is into this specific topic, and let's say you've got a guest which after you're debating with her, somehow she changed your perspective.
Yeah, then I'd be happy to accept that.
Would you
100%, bro, I am happy. Don't think I am some strong-minded backwards idiot that
I'm not saying that.
No, I'm just saying for the guests, right? For the people listening.
Yeah.
Don't think I'm so like strong-minded that I will not change my mind. You bring me an argument and I'll change my mind. 100%. Prove me wrong, change my mind. Done.
Nice.
I'm not like stuck on my thoughts. But what I am, and I think we did this in the wrong way because we're talking about marriage, women, etc., right? What I was talking about, which you can't change my mind unless you can, is values. I think we've lost values. So I can make this worse. Am I okay with promoting, like with what Disney is doing now, for example?
No.
They're making movies with a 16-year-old boy hitting on a 16-year-old boy. Do I want my kids to watch that shit? No. If you want to be homosexual, that is your right. But don't educate my kids about that. Because I have my values. And my point was about values.
Right.
Right? And the whole point of that conversation, which went the wrong way because it went towards women, it can go the other way. It's about bringing back traditional values. And I think in today's world, where guys and girls, by the way, go online, one message, you can go, like, I don't know who your wife is. I could figure out who it is and I could send her a DM. I don't think I should, right? I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
But you see how the world is just so maybe too connected. You know, maybe it's too connected.
Yeah.
Maybe this needs to be some limit here in the connection, okay? And maybe instead of spending all my time online, I should probably spend that time with my family without looking at my phone. Go to a restaurant today. Everyone's on their phone. So even if you have a marriage, which you're married, and you go to it, okay. Can I? Okay.
Go for it.
I don't know if you're going to answer it. That's why.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Can you answer this honestly? I'm not asking a simple question. Yes. It's not a deep question, but can you answer honestly?
100%.
All right. So you go for dinner with your wife.
Okay.
It's a date night, right? I'm sure you take your wife out for dinner. When you're in dinner, are you just talking to her or are you on your phone? And is she on her phone? Answer that honestly. That is the only thing I want you to answer honestly.
Well, if you want me to be honest,
super honest.
Sometimes, like, perhaps just like, okay.
Be honest, Mo. Okay. Be honest, okay.
Just clarify something because I need to clarify myself, isn't it?
All right.
For me, I would like, for example, if I'm hungry, perhaps I'm watching my phone just to kill the time just to get the food. But that does not mean that every time when we will go out, I will be holding my phone and checking my phone, because sometimes I just want to have some screen off time so that I have quality.
So is it screen off time? Be super honest, Mo.
Yes. For me, yes.
So you're just chatting.
Yes, that's the purpose, and we are.
I mean, that is the purpose. But if you actually go out, not even with your wife, even with friends.
Yeah.
Let's say you go out with your friends. Okay. So I feel you're more comfortable talking about your friends. So let's go with friends.
Okay.
You go out with your boys.
Yeah.
You go to a cafe.
Yeah.
Are you talking to your boys or are you on your phone?
Oh, that's really very good question, actually. Because, I just remember when I'm with the guys, we always had to fight. Like, hey, stop your phone.
This is my point, bro.
Exactly.
This is my point.
We reached an era that we constantly look to our social media platforms, and we just like we are.
This was the point I was trying to bring.
Yeah,
that
we are controlled by that.
That even though we sit on a table together as human beings.
Yeah.
Here's a funny thing. If I was sitting with other people, I might message you. But if I'm sitting with you, I message someone else. We are not appreciating human time, human to human, because we're always connected to this thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like we have an addiction.
Exactly. That's what
right?
I was trying
that's what I'm saying. It's not that you don't love your wife or you don't love your friends. I'm just saying we live in a world where we're addicted
to
this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with your personal relationship. I'm sure there's your best friends, that's your wife, that's everything. But this addiction is a problem.
It is.
And everything I'm talking about is when I say bring values back, is make humans again. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't make them like, okay, I'm a marketer, Mo. Hustle Kitchen is my marketing agency.
Yeah.
I target people like you on their phone, making sure they buy my products or my clients' products. So for me, it's great. I can sell you shit.
Yeah.
But as a human, it's not so good. You know what I mean? Like, I understand both sides of this conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's really, really wonderful. I was saying. Actually, I've been looking for such a conversation because it's really got deep. Now, speaking of having an agency and having a background of marketing and sales, and you've done amazing job so far. That's what I can tell throughout your content creation. The time I started, good to know you, and after I spoke with you, I get a glimpse of what I have seen. But now, speaking of this, with correlation it with your podcast or with your two podcasts, I would say the controversial podcast and
I think your podcasts have now become controversial after this one.
Well, it's not up to me to judge that.
I think I'm bringing the most controversial podcast to you, Mo.
Nice. So,
all right.
In correlation with that, what do you think that skills as a podcaster you should have in order to be successful?
Yeah.
From your point of view.
As a podcaster?
Yes.
Okay. I think first of all, you need to listen 100%. Like, a lot of people like to talk more than listening. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. I think like if you're a host, you should always listen because you need to think about what's happening next, right? But the second thing is also don't make it boring, right? So like if, for example, your guest, I'm the guest here today, guys. So if your guest is going off on a crazy tangent or just being really, actually not, if he's being boring, you need to be able to switch the topic.
Okay.
Because people don't want to hear the boring stuff.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
So you need to keep it entertaining.
Mm.
And the most important thing I would say in today's world is when you're doing a podcast, don't think about the podcast as a whole.
Mm.
Think of where's that TikTok clip I can make from this? So you don't interrupt. Like if I'm saying crazy shit, which I was the whole time, you can clip that into so many clips, right?
Yeah.
But if someone's interrupting the other, then you can't get the clip because the clip gets interrupted.
Yeah, it's
So think of TikTok whilst you're podcasting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if the conversation is too boring and normal, there's nothing you can put on TikTok.
Yeah, true.
Listen, I mean, for your guests listening, you have to be controversial a little bit, or not controversial, but you have to say something or a clip that is worth sharing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are you sharing? What are you talking about? Because unless it's your mom and your sister and your brother, who's listening to it?
Exactly. No, I definitely agree with you on that point, and you should always. But then I just want to understand from a podcaster point of view to another one, just to say what are the things. So, if I would ask you this, what is the uniqueness that people who listen to the podcast right now should watch your content creation as a general? Now,
I'll tell you the biggest challenge.
Okay, go for it.
And I'll give you statistics as well. Most people will not watch your full podcast or listen to it.
Okay.
Unless they're in their car, they're in the gym, or they're going to sleep, or whatever it is, right? Most people will not sit down for 1 hour and listen to a podcast. I'm sure you don't either. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's why I said the clips are important. So you can take a 1 hour podcast and cut it into like 6-10 minute bits. Mm-hmm. You listen to 10 minutes, but you won't listen to an hour unless you really are invested or interested in that topic. You know what I mean?
Or the guest,
right? So even if you don't have a guest, talk for an hour, but then cut it into 10-minute bits, right? And then upload those 10-minute bits with that topic. You know, like whatever we talked about for that 10 minutes. Like, for example, if you're going to upload Hussain thinks women are whatever, right? They're going to be like, oh my God, what did he say about women? You know what I mean? They'll listen to that bit.
Yeah.
But they won't listen to the whole thing until they love you, until they follow you, like they invested in you, right?
Right.
Even I love Joe Rogan. I never listened to a 3-hour podcast of Joe Rogan. You know what I mean?
No way.
I do when I'm asleep, like put it on and I fall asleep.
What's the purpose if you would do
No, but the point is, he says so much good stuff that I always get from the clips because it's topic specific. Does that make sense? Unless, like, for example, yes, like you said, it's a guest. I'm interested in this person. He never really does a podcast. He did a podcast now. Let's see what he said. You know what I mean?
That's the rational. Okay, let me bring this to the table. My own rational thing.
Yeah.
And that works for me because
unless it's fucking entertaining, but you don't let me swear, so how can I make this entertaining? You know what I mean? Like, I would make would make my podcast really entertaining because I have no rules. But if you live with rules, you have to live within the constraints.
But don't you think some rules are good for you to guide you?
Rules are made to be broken. Well, not laws, but rules.
That's another topic. you still have not, and you haven't answered my question the way I wanted, to be honest.
Well, sure,
I will redo it again. But interesting that you have said something that it is in line with what I believe. So, for example, for me, it does not necessarily for entertaining because it can be for getting knowledge, information,
informing as well. Yeah.
Now, speaking of this, sometimes if I like someone in general and I'm following his work, you will never get an opportunity to speak his mind, understand how he's thinking, until unless he's kind of interview based.
Do you know what they say, Mo?
No.
Today.
You would tell me.
It's the most popular thing today. What the word to use is edutainment. All right? It's not education. It's not entertainment. It's edutainment. Okay. That means you give knowledge, but in an entertaining way.
Oh my God, you bring something.
Now you have to do both together.
Okay, let me share something. It's correlated with what we believe in. Okay, let me ask you a question first. Do you know Toastmasters?
Yeah.
Have you been in Toastmasters?
I've been to one session.
And?
No, I went as a guest. I didn't talk. I didn't take part. I just watched.
Okay, so you know. So in Toastmasters, which is basically just for awareness or the people who are listening to the podcast, basically is a non-profit organization which aims to
teach you how to public speak,
improve your communication and leadership, and basically how to be a better communicator and being a speaker, basically, or develop your public speaking skills.
Yeah.
Just to cut it to the point.
Fair enough.
The story short. Now, we believe in something in Toastmasters, and we say the best moment to learn is the moment of enjoyment. We believe as a Toastmasters, when we are enjoying our time, we can grasp everything so quickly and so damn good.
Yeah.
And since you bring the same thing from different school, but it is resonate with what we believe in public speaking. And this is something I literally said it in other episodes, and that's why I become what I am today, just because of me joining public
Toastmasters.
Exactly.
By the way, shout out Toastmasters. Like, you're teaching people good stuff.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean?
It's basically because we believe as a Toastmaster is that being leader is not enough, and being communicator.
Yeah.
So in order to be a leader of tomorrow, you have to have two specific skills that you need to nurture and develop along the way, which basically communication and leadership. It is like parallel. They don't work together, but if one missing, you're gonna find someone. Just like when you are in an organization and your higher department or DH is not up to that, you can't tell that he's not having that qualification, and it's very deep. But what I love about what you have just said now, because you blow my mind, having said that in different school of thoughts, and you brought this to the show, and this is really interesting to know that this is something real. Now, you being a podcaster, I ask you, what is the uniqueness about you as a Hussaini, about you, the life of Hustle Kitchen and the life of, just like you mentioned, what is the uniqueness within you that you believe? You can ask me that question. I'll ask you. I'll answer.
Sure. I mean, look, at the end of the day, as a podcaster,
yes,
I bring my life experience and knowledge to the table. And obviously, like, I'm almost 40 years old. Okay. You know what I mean? So I have a bit of life experience. And I bring content that I pick guests to bring value for my audience, right? But then I realize at the same time is like we have our own value inside of ourselves that we can also share.
Exactly.
But edutainment is the way. So if I sat here today and said, with a big beard, you must marry for a woman, right? You're going to be like, what the hell is this guy? Yeah. Right? Like, why want to listen to this guy? You know what I mean? Like, haram, bro, haram, you know? No, but in all honesty, like, I bring humor in, right? Like, to make it fun. You know what I mean? So even if you don't like it, you like it, doesn't matter. You're going to get entertained by it as well. So I was saying you can mix entertainment with knowledge, but always I try to give knowledge.
Okay.
Always try to give knowledge. Always give value. Otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly.
Right? Like, I won't just sit here and just talk shit for an hour. Right? Like, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? But I'm like, you're educating, but you're entertaining.
Exactly, yeah.
Always. Like, that's always in my mind. That's why when I do a podcast, as a host, it's always in my head that I'm like, how will this look as a video?
Yeah.
See, I'm thinking many things in my head while I'm doing it, right?
Nice.
And so when someone's talking for too long, I'm like, done. You're done. Switch topic. Right?
Yeah.
Because I can see, like, this would be a boring video otherwise.
Exactly. And at the
I have to direct like a composer, you know what I mean?
How can you distinguish yourself if you can't have the control of your own podcast? I mean, this is very important because at the end of the day, it's your content, and you should.
I want to make sure my content's entertaining. I want to make sure people who watch my stuff enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right? Even if they hate me, love me, I don't care. But as long as you're enjoying it.
Nice. So what was your criteria then? If that would be the follow-up question, what is the criteria for your guest?
Okay, that's a very difficult one. Can I give an honest answer here?
That's why you are here, I believe.
So, I know a lot of people in Bahrain. Do you know how many podcasts I've done in 2 years? Maybe 30.
30 podcasts you've done in Bahrain?
That's it. You know why?
Why?
People message me all the time. I want to come on your podcast. I look at their profiles and I'm like, no. Honestly, I'm a filter, right? Yeah. Not because I don't want them on my podcast. Habibi, hayak, you know what I mean? I don't mind. But I'm like, if it's going to be boring content, I don't want it. Because not for me. Like, for me, I don't care. I'm happy to sit down with every single person I meet.
Nice.
But like I said, like the composer, right? I'm thinking, is this person going to add value? Is he going to be interesting for my guests? For the people that I waste your 1 hour listening to my stuff.
Of course.
I don't want to waste your time. So I filter for you.
What makes you think then your criteria of choosing the guest?
In Bahrain, we have a very hard time finding guests.
Whoa.
Listen, if anyone thinks I'm wrong, and if you think you should be on my podcast, and you have a valid reason, and you like, as in, you think you'll be entertaining on my podcast, message me. But what I'm saying is, maybe a guy is rich, maybe he has great business. I'll give you an example, right? So let's say a guy is very successful, doesn't make him good on a podcast, maybe can't speak. And then maybe someone doesn't have a business, but he's great at speaking. I'll get that guy. first. I wouldn't get the guy who's... see, a podcast is a talk. It's speaking. It's conversation. So maybe you're a billionaire, but you're shit at speaking. Then you're not going to be entertaining. So I don't want you.
That's a fact. But
I filter like that.
How could you... No, the question is, how could you ensure that your criteria is... I
can't. I just take a guess. I know the person because I speak to these people. And I know, like, okay, for example, this guy can't really speak that well as a conversation. And I'm like, as successful as he is or as talented as he is, maybe he's an artist, maybe something else, right? He's super talented. But after a conversation on a phone, I was like, he's not really conversing well. So this is not going to look good on video, right? So I think about these things, by the way, when I'm picking my guests. In Bahrain, I feel like everyone just picks everyone. You know what I mean? I don't. I filter. That's why I don't do too many guests. And that's why I made Macho Libre, because Macho Libre doesn't need guests.
Interesting. It needs topics.
But between us. So like it doesn't need guests. Like it doesn't depend on a guest.
Right.
It depends on just us with topics talking about shit.
That's really interesting, Hussaini. Now, you brought me on a fire when you said something. No. What is the challenges you faced, and you're still facing it? In I want to understand from your perspective as a podcast industry, just to understand that from your end. What is the real challenges that you have?
I wish I was in a different country. I really would do, because, like, for example, put me in Dubai, I have hundreds of people to talk to. Put me in America, I have hundreds of people to talk to. The place I am is a challenge. So now I'm like, cool, guys, we need to like put the technology up. Let's get the Zoom thing happening. Let's get all of the online things happening. You know what I mean? Because then I bring you amazing guests from amazing places. But I really want to put Bahrain in a place on a podcast as well. You know what I mean? And thing is, like, that was my biggest number one challenge, was finding the right guest. That, honestly, like, this has been a problem for me, right? And then I was like, okay, cool. We can add Zoom, right? We can add other online platforms. So I can speak to someone in the UK and bring them onto a podcast today. You know what I mean? If someone's trending on TikTok, come on my podcast. But I don't have to fly to the UK. You can just come online. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But don't you think this will lose the quality of it?
Not necessarily, because I think people listen or watch podcasts for the topics more than they do for the person.
Of course.
I mean, not the person, sorry, the quality.
Yeah.
You know, you don't care about the quality if you're getting the content.
That's also true, but now let's think about that. If that was your rationale behind this, we would see more often of Hussain than having an online, since
you'll see that I haven't published so much. If you actually look at my record, I don't publish every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I am picking and choosing.
Nice. So
I'm for quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
That's my rationale.
Nice.
For me. Otherwise, I could bring Hamad, this one. Sorry, don't mean you, Hamad. no, unsolved truth, Hamad. But you know, say Hamad, whatever.
Of course.
I mean, there's millions of people I can bring on, right?
Of course.
But what's the point?
Well,
because the funny thing is, I want to be entertained first. If I'm sitting with you, I'm the one talking to you, right?
Yep.
If I want to be entertained first before the audience.
So you have to be...
if I find it boring, why would I want to do it? You know what I mean? I'm sorry, guys, but that's the truth. You know what I mean? If you're boring, I don't want to talk to you.
Of course, yeah. No, but that's true. But then, don't you think that since it is not very popular here in Bahrain, and the competition, I believe, it's sky high.
No, so there's enough other podcast people to talk to these boring people that I don't need to.
What if those
people... go on their shows, bro. Leave my show alone, man. Go talk to everyone else. You know what I mean? I don't need to do this.
Of course. Everybody has different opinions.
I have a job. I have things to do. You know what I mean? I don't need to sit in a boring conversation. I'm sorry.
So you think that other podcaster, for your opinion, that they are boring?
No, I don't think they're boring. I'm saying some guests are boring.
Of course, yeah.
But, okay. Let me ask you a honest question then.
Okay.
What podcast in Bahrain do you listen to fully?
Well, depends on the guest. Because for me...
If there's a random guest that you've never heard of, which podcast will you listen to?
Nobody. Because
that's my point. I don't want to bring those guests. I want to bring someone you've heard of that you want to listen to. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest, by the way.
This is how you shape your authenticity into the way you deliver your content.
That's it.
Right? You have to be authentic.
That's it.
If I would have to follow someone and watch every podcast and every word he would spread, then I'm gonna copy him one way or another. I'm gonna talk
or like
myself.
Like, okay, so the reason I like to do quality over quantity is good. Okay, whilst the show is about the guests, I also like to bring my style to it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
The way I interview them, the way I ask them. So maybe you'll find it interesting, maybe you won't. Most likely you watch a clip, but you won't watch the whole podcast, right? But I'm just saying, and I'm sorry to guys listening there, I will not have you on my show if I don't think you're going to add value in a conversational way. Not that you're not valuable. You are valuable. But as to come, talk to us and make it entertaining. Because I believe entertainment and education should be mixed.
Yeah. And
if you can't mix the two, you're not going to come on my show. I'm sorry.
Nice. That's actually quite good answer.
That's my rationale.
It's really interesting to know that. But I would disagree with you on a point that for me it's like, okay, let's say the last podcast I had watched is actually an Arabic podcast where they interviewed I don't know if you know him or no, his name Hamad Salati.
I know him, yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm waiting for him to come on my podcast. What's his app called? He has an app, right?
He's not.
No. He's the one who's managing Ahmed Sharif, right?
Exactly. Yeah. He's the main director. For
I'm not waiting for you. Don't worry, Mohammed. you can go on with your life.
So I was blown away because this is the first podcast he's done according to my record.
Yeah, so you're curious
because I'm curious to know
what is about
how he's, because again, this is why I watched this specific episode, because I would love to know
who which podcast was this.
It's an Arabic podcast.
What's it called?
Khosh Fikra.
Oh, Khosh Fikra. I know Khosh Fikra. Yeah.
So there was a sponsor.
I'll shout out Khosh Fikra, by the way. I know the guys over there. Nice. Good guys.
So I saw it online, like in a sponsor ad or something, and it was the Salati saying that why have not then published Misbah onto Netflix, and it was really interesting because he was. I want to know the full story. I want to know everything related to that story. And
that's a great story, yeah.
It is a great story, and shout out to them because again, he what they have done and what he exactly meant. He said something very interesting.
What did he say?
He said about, have you watched? Okay, let me ask you this question.
I've watched Misbah, by the way. Zadun, no. I've watched Misbah, by the way. Okay, I've watched all that.
So the point of discussion was that 20 years back, there was an era of, back in the day, we don't have social media, correct?
Yeah.
So what we do have is actors and actresses, correct? And he said that literally that whereas our old generation reached with us, yet we have significant strong content back in the day, like for example Darb al-Zalag, and he was saying about he said like, look how strong these episodes were. By the time we don't have internet, we don't have social media that they can bombard the whole world within a second,
like Bye Bye London.
Exactly. But then it lacked to go viral just because it was only in Arabic.
Yeah.
And he was saying that we don't have continuity when it's come to actors. So there is a huge gap. And that huge gap, he said, like, I can see the future in doing such a huge project, which for me, to be honest and to be frank, I was so amazed with what he said, because this is actually true. And that's why one of the reasons I started this podcast. When I was in UK, whenever I say something about Bahrain, they even don't know. First of all, they don't know Bahrain.
Where's Bahrain? Yeah.
Where is Bahrain? Yeah.
Now they kind of know Bahrain. Yeah.
No,
now that F1, you know, we have the F1. You know what I mean?
It still helps somehow, but
next to Saudi, next to Dubai.
Exactly. Just to say Dubai. Of course, the whole conversation will go. Dubai is a city. It's not a country. It's only a city. And
but Dubai's taken over the world.
Yeah, of course, and because there's the awareness of.
Back in the day when I was young, it was Saudi. Like no one knew Dubai.
Yeah.
So you say it's next to Saudi. Oh, next to Saudi, cool. Then Dubai became famous. So you say, okay, it's next to Dubai. Yeah. Where's that little person in the middle somewhere? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So having said that, this is what actually drive me to like, oh, we always have to follow the West. In order to see what they are doing, we have to cope with them. Just for example,
that's why you have one wife. That's why you have one wife. Following the West, you know what I mean?
I thought that
I'm joking.
There is a huge culture gap that they have no idea about, and at the same time, this is the same rationale. Lots of people, I had heat in the beginning of me in this journey that why on earth your podcast is in English.
You know, I got that comment so many times, and I'm like, guys, there's so many Arabic content out there. Like, you know, like go watch it. You know what I mean? Like, why are you giving me shit? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even speak Arabic that well, so I'm not going to do a podcast in Arabic.
Well,
I mean, you could, but you're like, but there's Arabic content already. What about all the? You know, Bahrain has 1.5 million people, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
How many of them speak Arabic?
All.
No.
1.5 if Bahrain.
No, Bahrain as a country. No, not as Bahrainis, as a country.
Okay. It makes sense. You have to say Bahrain.
No, I'm saying Bahrain, let's say, is 1.5 million people, right?
Okay. I thought you saying that.
No.
The whole Bahrain.
No. I'm saying if there's 1.5 million people in Bahrain, let's say half of them speak Arabic. Let's say more than half.
75.
Let's say 70%. Okay.
70%.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how many people don't speak Arabic?
The rest 30%.
Which is how many? That's like at least 500. Let's say 400,000. Okay,
exactly.
As a number.
Yeah.
But from the Arabic-speaking Bahrainis, how many of them understand English?
Yeah.
And then add the two together. Which one is bigger?
Well,
the Arabic or the English?
Well, it depends. Again, it depends on you, the way you're thinking. For example, for me, I think. Have you watched by any chance App Talks? Or have you heard of it?
No.
Oh my God, you're serious?
App Talks?
App Talks, yes.
No.
Okay, so he's a podcaster.
Okay.
He's in Dubai.
Oh no, AB Talks.
AB Talks.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so App Talks. It's like the shortcut.
Because it's his name, right? Something Bukhari or whatever, Bukeshi or whatever his name is.
Yeah. So this is one of.
And it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yes. He's doing fun.
Amazing. He's doing amazing.
Amazing job. His superb job. And I didn't quite know him when I started my podcast. Because the only podcast I knew back then in 2020. It was Joe Rogan's.
Obviously, yeah.
Because he really inspired me.
Yeah.
And especially, did you watch The Daily Show, Trevor Noah?
Yeah, of course. I love Trevor Noah. I love Trevor Noah.
So these two...
It's my favorite. Yeah.
He's the best. He's the best comic guy he's ever...
AB Talks is cool. How are you really today?
Yeah.
That's his question, right?
Exactly.
So how are you really feeling, Mo? Let me ask you a question, Mo. How are you really feeling?
I'm feeling quite good, actually. Having you here is
in your life, Mo. Yeah. How are you really feeling?
Is that a question now?
That's a question. That's a question.
Well, I feel really good because I understood my passion. I understood back in the day I didn't had the confidence. I was always reluctant to talk in front of people. I was reluctant to talk whenever I have a presentation. I'll freak out when I have a presentation. I never ever knew, though that I had a qualification in a human resource, but I never realized that one day I can be a speaker. Unfortunately, 27 years of my life, I have never known that. So I'm feeling really good because...
So at what age did you feel confident?
Okay, so the storyline when I came back from England, whenever I had, especially in masters, and in every subject we have to do a presentation where I have to deliver what I did in this project, what was, and extra. So when I stood up and I would deliver a presentation, though I was very well prepared in advance, I know what this slide gonna talk about, what it's only pinpoint, I follow everything, but the second I stood, it's like
butterflies.
Yeah.
Butterflies, right? Butterflies in the stomach.
I start
get
shaking,
nervous,
nervous, and I realized that I'm not confident, and it's not about English or communication as barrier.
It's just that confidence for
exactly, and I feel like I'm shocking. I'm lost of words. I just want to concentrate to remember only those words that are in my mind, and I'll make miserable presentation. And I would feel like shit right after that. So when I came back from England, I knew I need to develop my public speaking skills. So I knew about Toastmaster. I have no Scooby-Doo about what it will done for me.
I like how you use Scooby-Doo as your that's your go-to, right?
This is thanks to my line manager. Anyways, so I knew at that time that I need to develop this. And at that time, I didn't knew that I'm really passionate about this. But I knew that, hey, a master's holder, perhaps one day I would be asked to do, because I'm certified in human resource. So perhaps one day they'll ask me to do presentation. What would I do? How would I perform? How can I really distinguish that, hey, this is really good candidate that we're looking to hire? How can I convey my personality? That just like the way I'm talking to you right now, exactly the way I will do in a presentation. How would I convey the right message within the right time, within the right words, and it will have introduction, body, and then I'll have to give a conclusion to wrap it up. And I found that by coincidence when I joined a Toastmasters. I discovered myself. I never knew about myself that I am a potential in that. And then 2 years after being...
But can I ask you a question? Was it something you wanted, or was it something that you stumbled on? Like, like certain people, they accept what they are. Okay, I'm not a public speaker. Khalas, I'll move on to the next thing, right? But was it something you really wanted from, like, as a passion, like, I want to be that confident guy? Or was it something that after joining Toastmaster, you're like, oh, I can be?
Okay, to break it down, something really interesting. They said you will never understand something or anything unless you try it. Okay, so like I said, it was a coincidence because I had a weakness that I want to develop, public speaking.
Had you given up, or you wanted this?
No, I wanted to improve this.
Okay.
I wanted to
consciously.
Yes,
okay.
Consciously.
Okay.
Like I knew that.
Okay.
Like I said, when I was in England, there was always, when I stood up, I know what I will talk about. I know the topic. I know the slides. I know every single information. But then I have, like I said,
you freeze.
Freeze, freeze. And so I didn't understand my passion. I didn't understand that could be my passion itself, because I didn't try it. But I thought that joining a Toastmaster will makes me a communicator. But what I discovered, which was like, how can I say that? It's what can you say for a big prize? The jackpot?
The jackpot, yeah.
The jackpot was, I found out my passion. Right after that, I have read a book for how to be good communicator by... I forgot the name. He's a very interesting guy. I'll Google it later. I'll let you know that. Sure. But basically, I read a book and it's completely changed my paradigm, completely changed my perspective. Right after that book, I went for another book for Roberto Greene. I read The Mastery, and I'm like, boom. Then I try to connect it with the thoughts and feelings, especially the emotions out of the Toastmaster. And then I realized, like, hey, I joined a Toastmaster to improve my communication. But what I realize, or what I discover, is that I'm truly passionate to be a public speaker and motivational speaker. And 2 years in being in a Toastmaster club, I had this idea, and I went immediately onto I start immediately think about how can I do a podcast, what is the things that I needed to do.
And you did it.
And you know the interesting part about that, I said that in with Hamad, and he asked me this question. He's trying to ask me one of the questions that really
unsolved truth.
Yeah, I was interviewed in Unsolved.
I saw, yeah.
And he asked me this.
Our one was really weird.
I told him the reality because, hey, I have no idea about content integration at all. The first episode I've done with this phone, and I have no idea about editing. I never used Adobe Premiere in my whole life. I never touched a professional camera.
But you're passionate about this.
When you are driven by passion, everything is possible. And that's what's driving to where I am today.
It's amazing.
No Scooby-Doo about all of this. And imagine now I can do like the amount of things that I used just to be scared not to do, because I'm like, oh, I never hold a camera in my life. How on earth I would, edit the whole... No, we reached to a level that, alhamdulillah, I realized this because, again, when you know yourself. So knowing yourself is going back to when you are really, really young. If you can relate this to your very, very early age, think about that. What was your thinking? What you were thinking? What you were passionate about? And try to think about the things that you have not to try. Perhaps that's the click that will change your mind.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me. It clicked. And after it clicked.
That's amazing, bro. That's amazing. You want to know something really interesting is that, do you think I'm a confident guy?
Yeah.
Do you think I'm a confident speaker?
I have to see that. And I have to see you so that on performing, then I will.
No, I mean, do I come across as a confident person?
Of course. It's very
I'll tell you the truth, okay? So, the only reason I only spoke publicly, by the way, it was because of university. Because I was a lazy student. I would never turn up to any group works and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you study in the UK, and sometimes you have group presentations where you have to talk in front of the classroom, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you said, you're feeling nervous, right?
Yeah.
And so I would never help my group with any work.
No.
They do all the research, blah, blah, they do the presentation, blah, blah. I was a bad student, okay? Let's just say I was a bad student back in the day, right? I was busy partying, you know what I mean? I was not interested in that. So then my groups would use this as blackmail against me, because not just you or me or anyone else, no human being enjoys talking in front of people. Everyone gets nervous. It's a natural feeling for everyone. Yeah. Right? If you notice in your class, in your groups, everyone is nervous. And some people read from the paper, some are nervous, but then someone will just come confidently be like, what's up, right? But that's very rare.
Yeah.
Most people are just nervous. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So because I wouldn't help them with the research and the homework and all of that stuff. So they're saying, you want to stay in the group? You have to do presentation by yourself. Normally it's 3 people sharing, right? Yeah. You do 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
You do the first 2 slides.
I'm saying, if you want to stay in this group, you have to do all yourself. And I'm like,
let's get it.
Forget it. All right, let's do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Give me the presentation. Nice. I'm trying not to swear. Give me the presentation. So then I go and I do these presentations, right?
Yeah.
I am nervous as you, just like you. I am. Before I start, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Till today, I've done a lot of public talks. Till today, before I get on the stage, I get these butterflies in my stomach. I'm nervous, right? It's after I say 1 or 2 words Then I feel comfortable, right? But before that, I feel nervous, right? Mainly because I'm never prepared, right? Like that's a real reason, you know what I mean? Like I'm like last minute, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they give me this stuff last minute and I'm like, cool. Then I go and I'm like, boom, 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 boom. And we get like an A, you know what I mean? Like we smash it, you know what I mean? But honestly, I always feel nervous before any public talk till today. Do you know what the most nervous feeling I ever had as a public talk?
No.
I've never said this online, okay?
Which is you're on Massimo podcast, isn't it?
But I've never said this publicly. The most nervous I ever felt in a public talk was in a matam on a member.
Okay.
In Muharram.
Why is that?
In Australia. If you go give an Islamic lecture in English, let's say forget the language, English, Arabic, whatever, right? Do you know if you talk business, you can say whatever you want. If you talk Islam and you make one mistake, everyone's going to be like, oh, bro, you're wrong, you know what I mean? Like you especially when you bring the Arabic words in and then you quote this hadith and that surah and that whatever. That was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I did it 3 times.
Nice. Speaking of this, is actually something we're going to shout out to the people because...
But I never mentioned this to anyone because people think I'm not religious at all, you know? Look at saying this idiot, you know what I mean? Like
people will judge you anyways.
Hey, let them judge. I don't care. By the way, I don't care. Right? Like, let them judge. Like, what are you going to say? Are you paying my bills? The day you pay my bills, you can judge me.
Have you seen that video where Andrew Tate walked out from his I guess it's Lamborghini or something like that?
Yeah, what color is my Bugatti?
Yeah, and it's a Bugatti, and he's like, "What color? Oh, I don't like this color." It's like, "What color is your Bugatti?"
Yeah. I mean, guys, feel free to judge what you want.
Exactly.
The day you pay my bills, then you can talk. I mean, to me, you know what I mean? Otherwise, you can just chat shit as you want.
As you always do.
As you always do. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Anyway.
I don't care. You know what I mean?
Why do you care?
I actually don't care. But what I do care about is if you involve my family, I'll care.
Of course, yeah.
Otherwise, I don't care. Talk about me. You know, with me, I'm like a punching bag. Hit me, bro. No, like, hit me, bro. I don't care, man. I don't care.
It's really interesting to...
Because the thing is, like, look, people are going to talk.
Yeah.
They're going to talk, right? Bahrain loves talking. So they're going to talk and they're going to talk. You know what I mean? But I maneuver in a special way. I'm not a religious guy for you to talk to me about religion.
Exactly.
I do probably worse stuff than most people do. Right? You want to talk about my business? Talk about it. You want to talk about my marketing? Talk about it. But I will actually be very honest with everything I do. Like, I'm not a liar. Like, I'm very honest about my life. There's no question you can ask me that I wouldn't answer. That's why no one can say shit. You got a problem? Ask me the question. I'll give you the answer.
Nice.
I'm not hiding anything. You know what I mean? If you don't hide anything, you can say everything. But if you're a fucking liar, I'm sorry. Which a lot of people are. Right? I'll say this now. And I don't want to talk bad about people, right? So I'm not going to mention any names. But you're going to meet influencers who pretend to be something, but they're something completely different in real life. I'm not talking about money or anything like that. I'm talking about their personalities, right? Me, the way you see me on a podcast is exactly how I am in real life. You've met me.
Yeah.
Am I different on the podcast than I am in real life?
No.
No, that's how I am. So if you see me like this is how I am. Most people you meet, you see them online, in real life, they're totally different.
Do you?
They're shy, they're quiet, or they're rude, or they're whatever. They're different.
don't you think that's kind of, they don't show the real authenticity?
They don't show themselves. They're fake. That's what I'm trying to say. They're fake online. I am exactly who I am. Online, offline is the same thing.
I would still disagree on that just for one point.
Sure.
No, there is one guy, I met him, he's about to is coming to the show soon. But here's how it is. In his videos, he's doing some skills. Okay, yeah. So he's doing some skills and some skills with the pole. And whenever I see a clips of him, he would show me energetic, a strong way, and you know, sure. He's like the hype himself.
Yeah,
he's like on coke.
Yeah.
But when I met him in person, he was quite
depressed.
Not depressed.
But quite. I've met this people. Like not that guy, but I've met so many people like this.
Yes.
Online, they're just like boom, 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 and then in real life, they're like, oh hi. You know.
Yeah.
I was asking. I don't know why you're disagreeing. I said, am I different in real life than online? I'm still the same, man.
I think it's in relation with the
we all put a little bit of energy, but I learned something. I said, if you are exactly the same, online, offline, meet you here, meet you there, right? Then you're perfect because no one can judge you. You like it, you hate it, it's the same thing. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And I think that is the place to wrap up.
It's actually you nailed it to the spot, and to be exact honest, it was really interesting topics and understanding your perspective of life. Ladies and gentlemen, what an honor to have the Lord
Hussain Husaini. We won't say why I'm called the Lord, but that is a topic for another day.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your time.
Habibi.
If you have not subscribed yet to the channel, and this is...
Guys, please subscribe to Massimo Podcast, the #1 podcast in Bahrain. After me, of course. No, but Massimo is doing really well. Guys, please subscribe to his channel. I love this guy. And he's the nicest. I would say he is the nicest. You know what?
What?
The #1 nicest podcast host in Bahrain.
I've learned really like that.
I will give you that.
That's really, really good way, and especially here.
So guys, please subscribe to Massimo Podcast, the #1 nicest podcast host in Bahrain, bringing you entertainment and content and amazing guests every single week.
Nice! What a way to wrap the podcast. Really interesting. Good night and see you soon.
Peace.